So, I'm going to try to unpack this a little bit because something happened last night that just boggled my mind. I'm not sure entirely what caused it. But I'm going to go to Facebook real quick. Because on my site, on my Facebook page as it were, I learned that home health is discharging mom. They will no longer visit, and they're releasing her to my care. So I put up on Facebook a praise report. And, because, reality is they might have just tapped out Medicare and Medicare cut them off. That could be the reality. But what they told me is that they were satisfied with the routine that I've created for her, and that my daily visits are over and above anything that they could do, because they only come once a week and they're only there for approximately an hour. So they just can't duplicate the level of care that I give her. So, whatever the case, either they've tapped out Medicare or they're truly satisfied with what's going on. The story I was given is that they're satisfied with what we're doing. So I wrote this praise report. I said, I have a praise report. I said, Mom's therapist will make her last visit tomorrow morning, which is now today. Home health is releasing her to my care. She will no longer receive visits from physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, or nursing. She and I will be on our own for the first time since her stroke in September of 2021. Mom's cognitive ability is only a 3 out of 8, so she will continue to need my assistance in many things, but they are happy with the routine I've created for her and pleased with the overall improvement of her health over the last year. And what is not in the post, but I'll add here, is that her doctor is extremely happy with the blood tests and the numbers that have improved over the last year. Mom had her stroke in September of 2021, and by August of 2021, she was no longer diabetic. So he's happy. He's like, whatever you're doing, you keep doing it. So back to what I wrote. I tell people that I'm on a short leash with Mom, and that's kind of a bad thing to say, but it's true. I stick very close to the schedule I created and remain fairly close to home in case she needs me. This leash prevents me from volunteering at our veterans organizations or other noble causes. But in the absence of serving my community, I serve the one who once cared for me and assisted me in my first steps. Through all of the challenges of learning how to care for her, I've affirmed what I've always known and prepared myself for. This is what we're meant to do, and it is worth doing. Despite Mom's cognitive decline, Mom is doing well enough that with my assistance, she no longer needs home health care. And that's the end of the post. And there are quite a few supportive comments and reactions. But then I get this. Last night I'm at her house, and I get a text from somebody we know. And it's a little shocking, but it comes in and it says, Dude, I think you need to hire a babysitter for your mom and take your wife out for a weekend. And this is something that my wife and I have discussed, but it's not truly doable. So I have found a different workaround. So I said, yep, she's terribly overworked, which is true. She could use a break. And You know, it, everybody needs a break. But, you know, after this last weekend, it was, we did a lot for her family who came in for, we do an early Thanksgiving, the Saturday just before Thanksgiving. It's easier on travel, it's easier on expenses, and we do a non-traditional. So we eat a variety of different foods. We've done Tex-Mex, we've done, you know, just barbecue. This particular one, we did Oriental. We change it up, we make it interesting, and we have fun with it. And so my wife's mom came in for the weekend, and they landed on Thursday and left Monday, yesterday. And we had a good time. You know, and when family gets together, there's always a little bit of drama, but we had a good time, and I don't think there's any permanent damage. And they even said that they appreciated our hospitality and everything, so no big deal. So then she gives me a thumbs up to my my comment that she's overworked, because she is. But then I said babysitters that do medical are about $80 an hour, and that's true. That's just whatever mom needs. When I get there morning and evening, she needs her vitals checked. I administer medication. Those two things alone make it a medical visit. Then I serve her dinner, breakfast or dinner, morning and evening. And then I do some light cleaning around the house. In the morning, it's usually just a quick spot clean, because with her limited mobility, she doesn't get around a whole lot. She doesn't get around easily, and the dog just does what he needs to do in an inappropriate place in the house. And so I have to clean it on a daily basis. So I put down a pad. The dog I put the pad, I didn't put the pad where I wished the pad was, but I put the pad where the dog goes, and the dog goes on the pad most of the time. Sometimes it's like, nope, I'm going to go somewhere else, and it drives me crazy, but it is what it is. And so I've adapted, and I've learned how to care for a dog that goes in the house. It's gross, it's disgusting, it's whatever, but if you get it up quickly, there's no permanent damage. There's no stain, there's no leftover odor. And now I've purchased a vacuum mop, which that's an invention that I want to kiss somebody for. That's incredible. But it needs to be done, and finding somebody who will clean up after a dog, good luck. They're like, nah, I ain't doing it. So one, I would have to find a caregiver who does medical, and they're $80 an hour. Then I have to find a house cleaner that will clean up after a dog. And I called around, and there's no professional services that'll do it. I might be able to find somebody if I look hard enough, but they're expensive. It's just easier if I do it. So, you know, $80 an hour, $40 an hour, that's an expensive night out. And, you know, and this person's telling me I need to take her out for a weekend. So we're talking, you know, Friday night, Saturday, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then possibly Sunday breakfast, lunch, and maybe dinner as well. $80 an hour. Come on now, it gets expensive to even consider this. So it's just easier if I do it. So this person says, that sucks. How much is your marriage worth? I didn't know that my marriage was in jeopardy. This person knows something I don't. And then she says divorces cost $5,000 plus. I'm like, what? There's no way that my wife told this person that she was interested in divorce before she told me. My wife we have heart-to-heart conversations all the time, because I spend a lot of time caring for mom, and it affects me, it affects my wife. And so we discuss our relationship and how to navigate this lifestyle that we now have. And so I know this person's coming from completely out of left field. And I said, tell her to file then. And then this is one of those things where mom's limited mobility. She didn't make it to the bathroom, and the bathroom was a mess. So I told her, I said, Mom had an accident in the bathroom, and I've been cleaning since 6 p.m. This was getting close to 8. Now, I've already cleaned up after the dog. I've already cleaned. This is a normal procedure. Monday, I do the hallway, the living room, and the dining room, because they're all connected and they all have hardwood floor. So it's just easy, done deal. And I need a spot clean in the kitchen. But now, even though I cleaned the bathroom yesterday, the day before on Sunday night, I'm now having to re-clean it because, Mom's nearly 80. She doesn't get around very well, and her cognitive ability slips and whatever. So I'm cleaning, okay? I walked in the door and I said, I'm going to be here a while. I just knew, and I didn't know what it was, but I checked her vitals, I gave her medicine, I served her dinner, and then I went and inspected the damage, and I said, yep, I'm going to be here a bit. But I went and did my normal cleaning first, and started a load of laundry. I'm trying to take care of her. So got all that done. And now this person's telling me that, something's off with my marriage. And this is where it gets serious. She says, well, she never said anything about divorce to me. Figured. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what happens when you get your priorities out of order. Now the accusation's coming out. The Bible lays those properties out for you. It's not a crime to get help. And there's some misspellings in here. It might be difficult, but if you ask God for wisdom and help, you'll get what you need. I'm pretty sure He knows the priorities since He laid them out. And He also knows how you can get help. I'm praying for you. And I said, so my priorities are out of order? Okay, thanks. And I'm literally in the bathroom. And I've cleaned all the top level stuff. I've cleaned the shower. I've cleaned the toilet. And I'm working on the floor. But I'm just like, So I finish all that and leave. I'm in the truck, in the driveway. I've said goodbye to Mom, gave her a hug, all this other stuff, and I'm leaving. And I said, Scripture says to honor thy mother and father. This is one of the 10 Commandments. I think it's the second one. And she says, what about the one that says, leave your parents in cleave to your wife? I think she's talking into her phone, and her phone's having a hard time interpreting her. And she says, you know what? Just forget it, Dale. I'm sure you got everything under control. I'll never bring this up again. Hope it all works out for you. So I drive home, and now I'm in my driveway, and I read this, and I said, this reminds me of the time you called me and cussed me out while I had pneumonia, because that happened too. There's this constant meddling. And so now I'm headed into the house, and this message comes in as I get into the house. And then she says, you know what? The fact that you're so defensive shows me that you actually know what the truth is. You just don't like the truth being pointed out. No worries, we're not going to talk anymore. And she blocks me on Facebook. Okay, easy enough. But because it's such an odd conversation, and I've got my phone in my hand reading this last message, as I walk in the door, I just opened it up and I just kind of looked at it, and I shook my head and realized that she had blocked me. So I handed my phone to my wife, and I scrolled up to, dude, think you need to hire a babysitter for your mom and take your wife out for a weekend. And I said, start there. And I walked away and went and got a bottle of water, sat down, and just waited. And my wife's reaction was literally, oh, no, she didn't, but she did. But she did. Mm-hmm. Yep. She did. So, after some time, my wife and I talked. My daughter's in the room, so she's overhearing. I'm trying to not be terribly negative or whatever. But eventually, I'm like, okay. What just happened? And my wife and I are like, where did this come from? So she calls and talks to the husband. And she says, what's the deal? What's going on? What caused all this? And the answer is it is a reaction to the praise report that I gave. And his position is to re-quote the scripture where a man cleaves to his wife and he leaves his parents, which is well known and very true. Obviously, you go to make a life for yourself. But I've always been taught that when your parents become elderly, if you have the ability, you go take care of them. You do pretty much whatever they ask you to do because they need your help. Now, this is not, hey, will you come over and do my dishes? Will you come paint my house? Will you come mow my yard? Will you come rub my feet? These are, I've got my own family. I've got my wife. I've got my kids. They're grown, but I've still got my kids. I've got my responsibilities to my wife, my kids, etc., so forth. And I'm not going to just drop what I'm doing at my place and come paint your house or sweep your floor when you're perfectly capable of doing it and you're just lonely. I'll spend time with you, but it's not going to be every day, da-da-da. I have my own things I need to take care of. But when our parents are no longer able to care for themselves and we are close by. Now, my mom moved down here to be near me because she knew she was slipping. I don't know how much, I don't know what the cognitive reasoning was. I don't know if it was a spiritual thing, a cognitive thing, or just a feeling. Something in her spirit said, you need to move down there with your son. But regardless of what the process was, she let me know back in 2018. She said, I'm selling the house and I'm moving down there. I said, okay, done. And so I scrambled and found her a place to live. Then she was in the rental for a year, and at the end of that rental period, we found her a house. It depends on how I have to go around the high school, so it depends on how I do it. The longest route's actually the easiest because it has less bumps and less traffic problems because of the high school. So it's 2 miles that way. The closest route is probably a mile and just under a mile and a half. I think it's 1.4 miles or something like that. But there's a lot of start and stop and all this other stuff, and so it ends up being around the same time to just go around the 2 mile area, regardless. She's here, and then she fell and had a stroke, or stroke had a fell. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But at any rate, so I'm struggling with this whole conversation, and now the conversation that my wife has, and she talked to both of them. My daughter's involved because she's sitting right next to my wife, and she's just, what happened? Like, where'd they come from with this? And so, go to bed, wake up this morning, I go over there, take care of Mom. I greet the therapist for the last time. I said, have fun. She said bye. I said bye. And then we're done. I get home and I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, I know there's a scripture that says you're supposed to take care of your parents. I know there is. I know there is. I know there is because it was taught in my church. And my church was a Bible preaching church. So I trust that there's a scripture somewhere. Maybe it was taken out of context. Maybe it wasn't. But there's got to be something in there that either it's misread, misinterpreted, or it actually says word for word, take care of your parents. So I do a search this morning, and I found something I think is pretty close. And it's in 1 Timothy chapter 5, and I'm going to start with verse 1. Because this section is over widows, elders, and slaves, and that section continues all the way through the entire chapter, the whole chapter. But I'm going to go through the first 8 verses. Okay? So it says, do not rebuke an older man harshly, but exhort him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters with absolute purity. Give proper recognition to those widows who are really in need. This is where I go back to, like, I'm not going to come over and just rake your leaves. I can hire somebody to do that. I'm not going to be at your beck and call for every little thing. But for those who are really in need. But if a widow has children or grandchildren, these should learn first of all to put their religion into practice by caring for their own family, and so repaying their parents and grandparents, for this is pleasing to God. The widow who's really in need and left all alone puts her hope in God and continues night and day to pray and to ask God for help. But the widow who lives for pleasure is dead even while she lives. Give the people these instructions so that no one be open to blame. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So, yeah. By caring for their own family and so repaying their parents and grandparents, for this is pleasing to God. So, are we supposed to care for our parents when they're elderly and they need us? This isn't coming over and hanging a bookshelf just because you're bored. This isn't come over and dust because I'm bored. This is, they're in need, and it's our responsibility to take care of them. It's our duty. And every family, every situation is different. What my mom has gone through, totally different from what somebody else has gone through. So what that looks like is going to be different for every single person. And there's going to be a parent that manipulates this scripture and says, well, I need you to come over and bake me a pie in my oven and talk to me and work on this puzzle while we do that, and da-da-da-da-da. And that's all well and good. But if they demand stuff like that on a daily basis, then they're manipulating it. They're manipulating you. they're taken away from your responsibility to your own family. But that's not what's going on with mom. Mom, she's got a cognitive ability 3 out of 8. I can feed her. Go through the whole process. Dot, dot, dot. Vitals, medicine, feed. Then I go clean. Come back, I clear the table, I wipe the table, everything's done, and then I leave and go home. And I take care of my wife because I continue to take care of my family. I'm still providing them, my family, with care. But I can go through all those things and then ask my mom, what did you just eat? And she fails to tell me consistently, what'd you eat? I don't know. I said, was it good? Oh, yes, it was very good. Thank you so much. The emotional piece is there. The what did you do? No idea. Walk in, TV's on a weird channel. Hey, Mom, what are you watching? I don't know. It just came on. It's not there. So anyway, so I create this other post on Facebook. So I did the praise report, and now so I did this one. So I said, I spend a lot of time caring for my mom, but I make sure I care for my wife as well. If you were to ask her, my wife, if she feels like I've neglected her, I know what she would say. I know what she would say. Yet I was called out and told that a babysitter for my mom would be cheaper than a divorce. Fact. First off, babysitters, kind of an offensive term, for the elderly do not take vitals or administer medications. They also do not clean up messes the dog makes or clean the bathroom. With mom's limited mobility, things happen, and the bathroom needs to be cleaned and sanitized. Babysitters don't do those things. I have the option of putting mom in the nursing home temporarily for respite care, but there is a 3-day minimum at $80 per day. That's an option. That's eventually going to happen. I'm going to take a vacation with my wife. We're coming up on our 30th anniversary. This is going to happen, but I'm not going to do it just to do it. There's going to be a reason for it. In this conversation, I was told I didn't have my priorities in order. I needed to ask God for wisdom, and I was told they were praying for me. I don't think those are the types of prayers my family and I need. To suggest that caring for my mom was not in God's plan seems ridiculous to me. They reminded me of the scripture where the man leaves his parents and cleaves to his wife. Are they suggesting that I abandon my mom and leave her to die? That might be a little extreme. But man, when Liz and I questioned them, they said no, but still insisted I didn't have my priorities in order and our marriage was headed for trouble. Look, we're coming up on our 30th, and I got to tell you, marriage is trouble. You're going to have trouble in marriage, period. It's how you deal with it. And we haven't always dealt with it well, but we've dealt with it well enough that we're still together. I'll admit, there are days I feel like I'm spinning plates and it feels a little overwhelming. I wake up, take care of myself for 2 hours with hydration, exercise, hygiene, and nutrition. I care for my mom for an hour, work for a few hours, take lunch, work a few more hours, help Liz with dinner, take care of mom for 2 hours, spend an hour on my nutrition class, and then an hour with my wife. Saturday mornings, Liz and I spend a little bit of time together between my visits to mom's, but then in the afternoons, we have 5 hours from noon to 5 to spend together and 5 hours from noon to 5 on Sundays where I do the bulk of my nutrition studies because I prioritize my time. I'm very busy, but I'm pouring positive energy into the people who are important to me. I don't think those people feel neglected. If anything, I feel neglected sometimes, but I keep pushing on. And don't blame Liz because she does a fantastic job putting delicious food in front of me and encouraging me. And that's the truth. And we don't always get along. But the truth is, even when we're a little upset with each other, we keep doing the right things. And eventually, the upset disappears and we get to enjoy the good times. So how these folks read my praise report and came to the conclusion they did is simply beyond me. They have no idea what my schedule is or how I operate. Somehow they managed to come up with a very warped version of my life. In their version, I was alienating my wife and indicated that we could end up in divorce court if I didn't get my priorities straight and get right with God. I'm pretty sure Scripture does not suggest that we abandon our parents when we take a wife and make a life of our own. That is a very warped idea. There are also scriptures to tell us to care for the orphans and the widows. Doesn't my mom deserve the best care I can give her while I'm also providing caring and loving for my wife? I have no idea how they came to that conclusion, and neither does Liz. We're just dumbfounded. So, and I just noticed that 3 minutes ago, my wife literally interjected here. She says, "You're doing an amazing job for both myself and your mom. People don't even realize anything you do for us and our family. You need more you time for sure. I love you so much." Yeah. So, nobody really wants to sit here for 30 minutes and listen to an old man gab in front of a camera. But I needed to get off my chest. And so now I have. I'll post it. If anybody has any good advice, I'll listen. But, yeah. I feel like this person came and knocked on my door unannounced. And then when I opened the door, they spit in my face and told me I shouldn't have opened the door and walked away. I feel like I've been betrayed because these are people that are close to us. And it's just like, wow. What caused that train of thought? What I don't even. So, and then there's those that are like, "You're letting this affect you too much." And I probably am. And there's probably some that are thinking I'm ranting and raving mad. I don't know that anger, I'm not mad, I'm not angry. I'm truly disappointed that this was the thought that was generated. And I got to tell you, most of the comments are very encouraging. You know, they come from people that I took care of my parents, and it was a challenge, it was a struggle, it was hard, but we did it, and I'm grateful for that time that we did. And come on now. This is hard enough without somebody telling me that my priorities are out of order and that I need to get right with God and His plan for my life because I'm letting my family down somehow. Not spending enough time with my wife. And they're right, I'm not spending enough time. But I'm making it a priority because I know that I'm taking time away from my wife to take care of my mom. I know that is happening. That is truth. That is exactly what's going on. But to make up for it, I make sure that I'm spending time with my wife every single day and making that time quality. Sometimes we work in the backyard together on those Saturday afternoons. Sometimes we work on a garage because things need to get done and we work on projects, but we do it together. And sometimes we go for a day trip. We just go. So I've got that window between noon and 5. So we typically don't drive any more than an hour, maybe an hour and a half away from home. And we spend a short amount of time wherever we are. We take some pictures, we create some memories, and then we come home in time to get back to mom and whatever she needs for dinner. That's how it works. So, for somebody to jump into the middle of that and they didn't even ask a question, just, you're screwing up. Your priorities aren't right. Your marriage is headed for divorce. Are they for real? I find it offensive. Am I angry? I think I should be angry. And I'm not. And I probably should be very upset. But I've kind of just brushed it off. They blocked me. And then after the phone conversation, I went and blocked the other party who had really nothing to do with Facebook. But I'm like, you know what? I'll see you later. And then since we're part of many social media outlets, I went ahead and blocked on all the other social media outlets as well, because it's like, you know what? I don't need this. So, I said it. It's over. And now that I've gotten it off my chest, I'm going to move on. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is what a lot of people have told me. You keep doing what you're doing because you're doing a great job. The doctors are happy. Home health seems to be happy. Everybody's happy, except for somebody who has nothing to do with what I do. So I'm going to keep going through the books on memory care and caregiving, and I think we've got the diabetes thing licked, but we'll keep monitoring that and making sure that we're still on the path, because she has improved a lot. She went from a 9.1 in September of 2021. I think it was October 5th actually when they took the test. So it was October 5th of 2021. She was a 9.1, and then in August of this year, 2022, I think around August 7th, I'd have to look at the calendar, her test came back as a 5.3. So she's no longer a diabetic. She doesn't really need medicine. We talked about taking her off of it, and doctor said, well, we'll wait until 6-month checkup, which will be in February of 2023. So we'll see. But anyway, so I don't need somebody praying for me to get my priorities straight when I feel like my priorities are straight and they're in line with what God asked us to do in Scripture. I believe I'm doing the right thing. I do. I believe it. And a lot of other people believe it, and it's just this one couple who have flown off the handle and acted like I'm messing everything up. So anyway, love y'all. We'll talk to you soon.